Join the team.
Hey, theMCGuiRE Review, and today we're going to take a look at Mantic's Advent Calendar board game they did. Now, this is from Mantic Games. If you don't know that company, you can check out the link in the description below. And for the 2023 holiday season, they did a Advent Calendar board game, which is something that, you know, I don't think is a brand new concept, but you don't really see it that often, especially for a board game like this, because you obviously have to, you know, be able to have just the components available to be able to, and then design and build a board game, right? And usually these things are in on-demand print runs, which this one was. And it's hard for them to stand on their own, like, and have longevity as far as a board game. So this, I thought, was a really unique product that they came up with, and they absolutely nailed it. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, can you go get this product? I don't believe so. Like, I don't believe you can get this from them directly. I don't know. I could be wrong. You have to check their website if they do have a back stock of these. I'm not sure. More than likely not. You probably are going to be able to pick these up on like eBay and things like that as people are trying to sell these, but they're probably going to come at a premium at this price. I got this for $39.99, and it was a fantastic value with what ended up showing up. And I had no idea these miniatures were going to be so amazing. When we get to those, you're going to see them on the side-by-side camera. I think you're going to be really impressed with how these custom holiday miniatures came out. So good. So we're not going to go deep into, you know, how to play. I'm going to give you an overview of how this game works. It did come with a rule book here because it is a board game once you get everything out of the box. Once you pop all those open as you go day by day through the Advent Calendar. There's just a few pages of rules, 1, 2, and 3, and that's the whole game. But one of the things that I was kind of concerned about is that, you know, you're really going to get the components, and the game's probably just going to be like, you know, but the game actually has some substance to it, and it's actually a lot of fun when you're playing with, you know, the loaded up 4 players. Like when you're playing this game with 4 players, it gets chaotic, and it does get a lot of fun. And I think they put enough rules into it where you've got a game that you know has a number of things and mechanics that are going on, but they didn't go overboard with it. Like if this would have come with a 10-page rule book, I'd be like, all right, guys, like it's done very, very well. The design on this is awesome. So that's kind of the overview of kind of the complexity of the game. One thing that I'll say just for gameplay, you are essentially going to be trying to take your character and move them back and forth across this board, picking up in each one of these green spots a holiday token here, which is, it's a number of different things, like little cookies and meals and drinks and whatnot, all holiday themed, and everything's holiday themed, so that's what made it so cool. And then bringing it back across the table, or across the board here, to your actual table and dropping it off, which they call banking. So the whole point of this game is to be able to collect a certain number of tokens and then win the game. But in the midst of trying to do that, you're going to have a barkeep that's going to be getting in your way. You're going to be having a bouncer that is going to be getting in your way, and other players are going to be getting in your way as well with throwing out spillage tokens that could slow you down, trying to actually steal the holiday treats you've collected off of your table if they're adjacent to your table. Which is a very interesting mechanic and can be very costly. If you don't pull off that steal, you could effectively close to lose 2 turns. So that can be kind of a risk. And it is really fun to watch a player try to do a lot of stealing and then end up winning. That's almost more worth it and more fun when that plays out that way than them just getting kind of screwed and kicked out of the bar and then having to try to get back into the bar. To continue to get points for themselves. It's almost funnier when they make the rolls and they're able to like win by stealing stuff off of other people's plates or other people's tables. So that was really fun. The game totally stands on its own, so I'm not worried about that, and that gives me a lot of hope for the future. I would love to see Mantic continue to do this. I think this is an extremely smart product for them to continue to make, and it really made me feel good about the fact that the game that came with this one really stood on its own. It was super fun. We will be pulling this out in the holidays, playing it during the holidays, and maybe playing it off the holidays as well. But this is a great one to kind of pull out and theme with like your holiday times to be able to play. You get the little red and green, dice, which, holiday themed, all your miniatures, obviously. You get a ton of furniture. Like, look at all this furniture. And you'll see this stuff on the side-by-side mini cam. You can see it up close. There's a ton of furniture that you get. And the other thing that's awesome about this is it's all reusable, okay? So let's say that you got this out and you, for some reason, just didn't have any interest in playing this game or any interest in the board game aspect of this. I don't know why that would be the case, but let's just say that's the case hypothetically. You are getting a ton of RPG playable furniture to be reused in your RPG games. I mean, how often are we in taverns or different spots where all of this can be used? You're going to be getting these custom miniatures, and all 6 of them are custom sculpted with that holiday Christmas type theme, which is awesome as well. And you probably would pay $30 to $40 just to probably get a set of these special miniatures if you were really into collecting these miniatures and wanting to paint them. And then obviously being able to reuse these as to do a holiday one-shot. You could have 4 characters that are all themed that way to be able to get and play. Or if you wanted to use and do a holiday one-shot, and these are all NPCs that your party runs into, they're already themed with all of the holiday feel and flair. So very, very awesome and well done. The other thing I'll call out before we get to the miniatures, and I'll leave us with that, is there are things that are a little bit different about my version, and that's because I've kind of deluxeified it a little bit. You do have to open one of these sides of this because the rule book was stored underneath there. So I went ahead and I glued that back, and this was connected. So this was kind of the top of this, and it was just like a box. It was connected. I did cut mine off because I wanted mine to sit flat on the table when I played. And then I did install some custom little magnets you'll see on all 4 corners, as well as the 4 corners of the box. So I could just pop this back on and have this, magnetize to this box so it would kind of hold on there. Now, these aren't hardcore magnets. It's just enough to kind of slap this back on and lightly hold it. And then I'll tie a little red string, a little bow or something around this to keep it on there. Because if this was to ever pop off, obviously everything inside would just come falling out. So, maybe some things that Mantic can think about with future versions, as they go through, because I do highly suggest they continue to make this kind of product each year, where design the product where the top can come off, the case can go back together, everything can be held inside. That way people aren't just chucking this, because I do think this is a cool, way to carry your game and store each one of your individual components. I'll put each component back into one of the spots. Doesn't have to go where I pulled it out. And I will put a little bit of foam in there for the miniatures, so each miniature is kind of in there in a foam-protected area. Just some of that little pluck foam or something I'll put in there just so they're protected and they're good to go. Okay. I did trim down my rule book just a bit as well, so it does lay perfectly down inside of the container there, kind of between the 2 pieces of paper, so it lays down in there and flat, and then boom, this just magnetizes on top, and we're good to go. So that's how I did mine, just to kind of deluxeify it out a little bit. I also did add some little wooden bases to the braziers here because they just didn't stand up on their own very well. I just think because they kind of got a little bit warped. They're a little top heavy, so they just kept falling over. So I put these little bases on there, and boom, and they don't ever move. They stay right there on the board. It's good to go. It's never going to fall over. So I did make a couple little modifications just to make mine a little bit better. But that was it. So what I'll do now is let's go to the miniatures. You can check these out on the side-by-side. Fantastic. You can see how each one of them have something that is themed. It's either the Santa hat, or there's kegs everywhere, the drinks, there's the presents, the little tiny presents and packages. There's various different things you'll find, little bobs and different things on the characters themselves. This one's really cool with the bow and sort of like the little holly, it looks like, that's kind of right up here on the hat. And she's holding that like candy cane staff kind of behind her. That awesome pose. Just, they're sculpted so well. They are resin, so they're very, very high quality miniatures. They're also going to be a little more delicate because they're resin, okay? But you're fine. I mean, you can drop them. They're not going to break or anything like that. But I wouldn't, put a bunch of pressure on them. They are resin miniatures, so... but very, very cool. Very, very high quality. The other thing I'll call out, and it's probably not going to bother someone that's into miniatures, may have bothered someone that just wanted to pull it out and play. These did have a ton of little gunk and flange and still like sprue pieces where, they're 3D printed and whatnot that were all over them. Not like it just came out of the 3D printer, but enough that it probably would if someone didn't do that kind of work with miniatures, they'd be like, man, what's all this junk? Like, how do I get this piece off of here? If they didn't know what they were doing, they could potentially break the models. So, you'll just want to use little clippers or, I just used pretty much like a X-Acto razor blade type tool on mine. I cleaned them all up. You'll want to get yourself a very, very fine sandpaper. And if there's any little areas, primarily it was the bottoms of the feet and whatnot, I would just kind of scuff them a little bit, brush them, flatten them out, and then you would glue them down to your bases. The bases work did come separate from the miniatures. So I would say all in all, probably 30, 35 minutes of like cleanup time just to make the miniatures absolutely perfect. And they, look like they would come right out of a package. Absolutely perfect. So I will call that out. I didn't have a problem with that due to the price of the product, as well as it being a print on demand, as well as it being resin, super high quality miniatures. Custom sculpts, I didn't have an issue with that. I deal with miniatures, so it was a boop, boop, boop. It was actually kind of fun, for me, kind of part of the hobby, but that might not be for everybody. So I do mention that kind of just as a review feedback piece, as well as, just so if they make products like this in the future, they may come like that, okay? Team, that is Barroom Brawl. Mantic, please continue to do this, and outstanding run on this game and what you've been able to produce here. I was incredibly impressed. So was Bear. With that, team, keep rolling them crits. It's been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.